Let's get real for a second. Most people are running their lives on autopilot, fueled by what other people think. That's extrinsic motivation, baby. Chasing approval, likes, and validation from everyone but yourself. It's the classic rat race. And guess what? You're the rat, running in circles for the cheese that someone else decided you should want. But here's the kicker. It's not even your cheese. It's society's version of success, and you've been conditioned to chase it like your life depends on it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Now let's flip the script and talk about intrinsic motivation. This is the magic sauce, the drive that comes from inside. It's about doing things for you, not for the applause, not for the validation, but because it lights a fire in your soul. Studies show that intrinsic motivation is the real MVP when it comes to long-term success. Why? Because when you're driven by passion, purpose, or curiosity, you don't burn out. You don't stop because no one's clapping. You just keep going because you love the process. Here's the problem. We live in a world drowning in highlight reels. Social media has us scrolling through everyone else's best moments, vacations, promotions, six-pack abs, and it makes you feel like you're falling behind. But here's the tea, it's all fake. Nobody's posting their failures or their boring Tuesday afternoons. You're comparing your behind the scenes to their main stage, and it's a losing game. That's how extrinsic motivation traps you, by making you think you need to measure up to an illusion. Let me hit you with this. If you're constantly chasing the approval of others, you're living for their dreams, not yours. The likes, the followers, the validation. It's a hamster wheel, and you're never going to feel truly fulfilled because you're playing someone else's game. It's like running a marathon with no finish line. You'll just end up exhausted and asking, what's the point? Intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, is where freedom lives. It's that quiet voice inside you that says, hey, I actually like this, or this makes me feel alive. It's not about competing with anyone or proving yourself. It's about growing, learning, and creating because it matters to you. You're not chasing clout, you're chasing purpose. But here's the twist. Most of us ignore intrinsic motivation because it's quieter, it's not flashy, it's not trending, it's just sitting there waiting for you to listen. And instead of tapping into it, we drown it out with endless distractions, scrolling TikTok, binge-watching Netflix, chasing validation in all the wrong places. Meanwhile, the part of you that wants to do more, be more, live more, is screaming, hello? Is anyone home? Here's the truth. If you want real success, the kind that lasts, you have to stop living for the audience and start living for yourself. Forget about the cheese. Forget about the rat race. Get off the damn wheel. Because once you start doing things that make you happy, that make you proud, and that make you, you're unstoppable. So ask yourself, are you chasing the applause, or are you chasing your passion? Because one leads to burnout, and the other leads to greatness. Choose FKN wisely. Let's talk about fear. Yeah, fear. The thing no one likes to admit is running their lives. But guess what? It's running your life too, whether you want to admit it or not. Here's the deal. We like to think we're motivated by big, shiny goals, money, success, a six-pack, or whatever. But let me hit you with some cold, hard truth. Most of us aren't running towards something. We're running away. Away from failure, away from judgment, away from the fear of not being good enough. And that fear, that's the cat chasing us. Let me break it down with a little science experiment. Don't worry, no lab coat needed. Researchers put a rat in a tube and dangled the smell of cheese in front of it. You'd think that rat would go all out to get that cheese, right? Nope, it tried, but not as hard as you'd expect. Now here's where it gets juicy. When they added the smell of a cat behind the rat, that little dude went beast mode. It pulled harder, ran faster, and gave everything it had, not because it loved the cheese more, but because it feared the cat behind it. Sound familiar? That's you, that's me, that's everyone. We're not chasing the life we want. We're running from the life we're scared to have. We're terrified of being mediocre, of failing, of people seeing us as anything less than what we're supposed to be. But here's the problem. Fear is a crappy motivator. Sure, it gets you moving, but it's like driving with the brakes on. You're always on edge, looking over your shoulder, wondering what's going to catch up with you. It's exhausting. And worst of all, It keeps you stuck. Fear convinces you that you're not ready, not good enough, not smart enough. It whispers, what if you fail? Or what will they think? And instead of doing the thing you actually want to do, you play it safe. You stay in your comfort zone. You settle for less because at least it feels safe. But here's the catch, fear doesn't go away just because you play small. It just shrinks your world until you're too scared to even try. Let me ask you this, what's your cat? What's the thing you're so afraid of that it's controlling your every move? Is it the fear of failure, of being judged, of wasting your potential? Whatever it is, it's time to call it out. Because until you face it, you're going to keep running. And here's the worst part. The longer you run, the farther you get from the life you actually want. The real secret, stop running. Turn around and face the damn cat. Fear loses its power the moment you confront it. It's like that thing you were scared of in the dark as a kid. It's way less scary when you turn on the light. Once you stop letting fear drive you, you'll realize you don't need to run from anything. Instead, you can start running towards something. Because here's the truth. The life you want isn't going to chase you. The cheese isn't getting closer. You have to choose to move toward it. But you can't do that while you're too busy running from the cat. So stop, breathe. Look that fear dead in the eye and say, not today. The moment you stop letting fear control you, you take back your power. You stop surviving and start thriving. And trust me, once you stop running from fear, you'll be unstoppable. Let's talk about the word potential. It's the biggest scam out there and you're falling for it. Yeah, I said it. Potential sounds nice, doesn't it? It's that shiny motivational buzzword everyone loves to throw around. Oh, you've got so much potential. But let's call it what it really is, a trap. Here's how it works. The moment someone tells you that you've got potential, your brain latches onto this fantasy version of yourself, the person you could be someday. And suddenly, you stop appreciating who you are right now because all you can think about is whether you're living up to this imaginary standard. It's a mind game and you're losing. Look, society is obsessed with potential. Athletes, artists, influencers. It doesn't matter. Everyone is constantly hyping up what someone could be instead of appreciating what they are. Take athletes, for example. The world can't stop talking about how great they might be in 5 years, but no one takes a second to acknowledge how incredible they already are. It's ridiculous. And the worst part, we don't just do this to celebrities, we do it to ourselves. You're probably doing it right now. You look at your life and think, man, I should be doing more. You've got this picture in your head of what your best self looks like, and anything less feels like failure. Sound familiar? That's the illusion of potential, and it's robbing you of the chance to appreciate who you are today. Here's the thing, potential isn't real. It's a moving target. The more you chase it, the more it shifts. And while you're busy running after it, you're missing out on the one thing that's actually real, the present moment. Think about it. Every time you waste hours scrolling through social media, comparing yourself to people who look like they've got it all figured out, you're feeding this idea that you're not enough. You're sitting there thinking, I should be doing better, I should be achieving more. And that little voice in your head, that's the illusion of potential whispering. You're falling behind. But let me tell you something. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. The only reason you feel stuck is because you're measuring yourself against a fantasy version of yourself that doesn't exist. Potential isn't a promise. It's just a possibility. And possibilities don't mean anything unless you focus on the here and now. So what's the fix? Stop obsessing over who you might become and start appreciating who you are. Focus on what you can do today, not what you think you should have accomplished by now. Because here's the truth. The only way to reach your potential is by showing up for yourself every single day. It's not about some big, dramatic leap forward. It's about the small, consistent steps you take right now. You want to be great? Then stop waiting for potential to show up and start creating it. Take action, fail, learn, grow, do the messy, unglamorous work that no one sees but you. Because that's how greatness is built. Not by dreaming about what could be, but by working with what is. And here's the plot twist. When you stop obsessing over potential, you'll realize you were already enough all along. you'll see that the person you are right now is more powerful, more capable, and more worthy than you ever gave yourself credit for. So stop chasing potential like it's the Holy Grail. It's not. It's just a distraction. Focus on showing up, doing the work, and appreciating the journey. That's where the magic happens. All right, let's cut to the chase. You're being played. Yep. Every day, companies, brands, influencers, they're all pulling the strings, and you're the puppet. The craziest part? You don't even realize it. Let me break it down for you. You think you're buying products, right? Shoes, phones, workout plans, whatever. Wrong. You're not buying products, you're buying feelings. That's the game. And the big players, they've mastered it. Nike isn't selling you shoes. They're selling you the feeling of being an athlete. Apple isn't selling you a phone. They're selling you the feeling of being a visionary, a trailblazer, someone who thinks different. And guess what? You're falling for it. It gets worse. Those feelings you're so hooked on, they're not even yours. Society decided for you what's cool, what's admirable, what's worth chasing. You only want to feel like an athlete because the world told you athletes are the ultimate example of success. You only want to feel like a genius innovator because society worships tech billionaires like gods. These companies know that, and they use it to reel you in. Here's the real kicker: extrinsic motivation is what makes this trap so effective. When you're driven by extrinsic motivators, things like clout, validation, and approval from others, you're easy to manipulate. Why? Because you're chasing things that are outside of your control. And when someone else controls the thing you're chasing, they control you. Think about it. If Nike can convince you that wearing their shoes will make you feel like LeBron, you're hooked. If Apple can make you believe their gadgets are the secret to being the next Steve Jobs, they've got you. And the cycle repeats. You keep chasing the feeling, they keep profiting, and you keep wondering why you still don't feel good enough. It's a hamster wheel. The more you chase, the more trapped you become. And the saddest part? You don't even realize it. You tell yourself, I just need to hit this milestone, or once I buy this, I'll feel accomplished. But it's never enough. There's always another ad, another product, another validation carrot dangling just out of reach. Now let me be clear. Extrinsic motivation isn't all bad. It can get you moving. But here's the problem. It's fragile. It's like building a house of cards. The moment the applause stops or the trend shifts, you're left standing there, empty-handed, wondering what went wrong. So, how do you escape this trap? You flip the script. Stop letting brands and society define what's valuable to you. Stop chasing the feelings they're selling and start creating your own. When you're driven by intrinsic motivation, the things that matter to you, not to the world, you become unstoppable. Let me put it this way. When you're intrinsically motivated, you don't care if no one's clapping. You don't need the fancy shoes, the latest phone, or the blue check mark to feel good about yourself. You're doing the thing because you love it, because it lights you up, because it matters to you. That's power. That's freedom. And here's the best part. When you stop chasing what other people are selling, you start creating something no one can take away. Your own joy, your own meaning, your own success. That's when you break out of the hamster wheel and start running your own race. So ask yourself, are you chasing what you actually want, or what they want you to want? Because if it's the latter, it's time to take back control. Forget the feelings they're selling. Go find the ones that are already inside you. That's how you win the game. Let's get one thing straight. The rat race is exactly what it sounds like. A miserable loop where you're chasing something you'll never actually catch. And newsflash, the game is rigged. It's not designed for you to win. It's designed to keep you running. But here's the wild part. You don't have to play. Think about it. From the moment we're old enough to understand the world, we're shoved onto this hamster wheel of expectations. Get the degree, get the job, get the house, post the picture, chase the next milestone. It's endless. But here's the gag. No matter how hard you run, no matter how much you achieve, it never feels like enough. That's because the goalpost isn't real, it's constantly moving. Society's whole setup is built on extrinsic motivation, chasing approval, validation, and status. But what they don't tell you is that this kind of motivation comes with strings attached. It's fragile, fleeting, and let's be real, completely exhausting. Because every time you achieve something, you're not allowed to pause and appreciate it. Nope. The world immediately hits you with, what's next? Let me hit you with a metaphor. The rat race is like running on a treadmill. Sure, you're sweating, you're moving, you're putting in the effort, but are you actually getting anywhere? No. And the worst part? You don't even own the treadmill. Someone else is controlling the speed, the incline, and how long you have to run. But here's the plot twist. You don't have to be a rat. You can step off the treadmill anytime you want. And that's where intrinsic motivation comes in. It's the cheat code to breaking out of the rat race, because it's not about keeping up with anyone else. It's about creating your own path. See, the rat race thrives on rules, the right way to succeed, the acceptable timeline for achieving your goals, the normal way to live your life. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. Those rules, they're fake. Society made them up. And the moment you stop playing by those rules, you take your power back. But, and here's the kicker, breaking free comes at a cost. The second you stop running on that hamster wheel, people will start questioning you. Why? Because your decision to step off challenges their entire worldview. When you stop playing by the rules, it makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to confront the fact that they might be stuck too. That's why breaking free feels scary. It feels like you're becoming an outcast. But let me tell you something, that's the point. The only way to be exceptional is to be the exception. You can't stand out if you're doing what everyone else is doing. You can't win your race if you're still running someone else's. And here's the best part. Once you stop caring about society's fake rules, life gets easier. You stop wasting energy on keeping up appearances or chasing things you don't even want. Instead, you focus on what actually matters to you. You're not running for approval, likes, or validation. You're walking, hell, strutting at your own pace in your own direction. So what's the secret to breaking free? Stop chasing. Start choosing. Choose what matters to you. Choose to define success on your own terms, and most importantly, choose to walk away from the game that's keeping you trapped. Because here's the truth. The rat race isn't life. It's just a bad simulation of it. Real life happens when you stop running and start living. So step off the wheel. Burn the rule book. Be the outcast, the rebel, the exception. That's where freedom lives. That's where you live. Let's talk about being an outcast. Society likes to make it seem like it's the worst thing you could possibly be, right? Like if you're not fitting in, something's wrong with you. But here's the truth. Being an outcast isn't a weakness, it's your biggest strength. Because when you stop trying to fit in, you stop playing by everyone else's boring, predictable, cookie-cutter rules. And that's where real greatness begins. Let me break it down for you. Society runs on a system of norms, these invisible rules about what's acceptable, what's cool, what's right. And everyone follows them like robots because it's comfortable, it's easy, it's safe. But here's the problem. The second you step outside of those norms, people start to freak out. Why? Because when you're different, you make them question their own choices. You challenge the idea that their way is the only way. And let me tell you something. People hate being uncomfortable. That's why society pressures you to conform. It's not about you, it's about them. They want to keep their world neat and tidy, and you being different messes that up. So they'll do whatever they can to pull you back in. But here's the plot twist. The moment you stop caring about their opinions, you take your power back. Let me hit you with a fact. No one great ever fit in. The innovators, the artists, the rule breakers, they all stood out. Steve Jobs, Outcast. Elon Musk, Outcast. Lady Gaga, Outcast. These people didn't play by the rules because they knew the rules were holding them back. They weren't afraid to be weird, unconventional, or misunderstood because they realized something most people don't. In order to be exceptional, you have to be the exception. But let's be real, it's not easy. Being an outcast comes with challenges. People will judge you. They'll talk behind your back. They'll make you feel like you're doing something wrong just because you're not doing what they're doing. But here's the tea. Their opinions, they don't matter. Nobody remembers the people who played it safe. History is written by the ones who dared to be different. So, how do you embrace being an outcast? First, stop worrying about what other people think. Seriously, most people are so busy obsessing over their own insecurities that they barely have time to think about you anyway. And the ones who do judge you? They're just projecting their own fears because they're too scared to step outside the box themselves. Next, own your uniqueness. Stop trying to dim your light to make other people comfortable. If you're weird, be weird. If you're different, be different. Because your individuality is your greatest asset. It's the thing that sets you apart, that makes you unforgettable. And finally, remember this. Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. It's easy to blend in, to follow the crowd, to do what's expected of you. But that leads to a life of mediocrity, a life where you never truly feel alive. The hard choice, embracing who you are, even when it makes people uncomfortable. And that choice leads to freedom, creativity, and a life that's actually worth living. So stop trying to fit into a world that was never built for you. Be bold, be different, be the outcast. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need more people following the rules. It needs more people breaking them. And that person, that's you.